Hello, Vikings. Welcome in. So we're talking about Unit 4, and I'm going through my ultimate government review. That's a massive slide deck with all of the key stuff that you need to know to prepare for the AP test. So let's talk about Unit 4, political beliefs and behavior. Curriculum. American political beliefs are shaped by founding ideals, core values, linkage institutions, and the changing demographics of citizens. These beliefs about government, politics, and the individual's role in the political system influence the creation of public policy. So, how, our ideologies, our experiences, they all influence how we feel about politics. American political culture is comprised of citizens' beliefs about government, including their perceptions, relationships, and interactions relative to one another and their government. Core beliefs about the government center around different interpretations and applications of political values, such as individualism, the focus on individual rights and responsibilities, the rule of law, the notion that law is supreme over all other persons, limited government, the idea that the government's power is enumerated and constrained by constitutional rules, and also equality of opportunity. So citizens learn and develop attitudes about government through political socialization. Several factors contribute to political socialization. That's how you get to know politics. What influences that? Your family has the most important influence on your political socialization, but also your schools, your peers, your social environments, geography as well. How much influence these factors have on a person's political beliefs relates in turns to the life cycle effects, dispositions that change with the age or membership in a group, experiencing the same events at the same time, and generational effects, which involve exposure across ages and groups to the same political information. Both life cycle and generational effects are fueled by past and present political events. So the time you grew up in and the political events that happened when you were growing up in your formative teenage and young adult years have a major influence on how you view politics. American political culture, through expressed citizen opinions, influences government institutions in the formation, implementation, and evaluation of public policy. For example, how people view the principles of freedom and individualism shape opinions about domestic and economic policy, including the appropriate range and types of such policies. And the tension behind citizens' belief around appropriate role of government is revealed through policy debates and legislation. How much control should the government have? How much freedom should we have? Some argue that government should try to take an active role in promoting social equality and ensuring economic opportunity, while others warn that excessive regulations violates individual freedoms. So major public policy programs are rooted in ideological trends that span decades. For example, ideology, that's how you view politics, impacts the nature and extent to which the federal government shares power with state governments and how it regulates the marketplace over time, as evidenced by debates among monetary and fiscal policies. Globalization also has had an impact on political beliefs and public policy. That's how the government determines the nature and direction of social policy, such as that involving immigration or healthcare reform, is also impacted by ideological pressures from both the right and the left. And foreign policy is influenced by citizens' belief about the U.S. government's role on the world stage. Should we have more of a role, or should we take a more isolationist role? So we've got Unit 4 essential questions are: how are American political beliefs formed, and how do they evolve over time? And how do political ideology and core values influence government policymaking? So enduring understanding is basically the citizens' beliefs about government are shaped by the intersection of demographics, political culture, and also dynamic social change. So some key terms that you'll need to know for this unit: demographics, that's just the study of population based on factors and characteristics such as age, race, and sex. Political culture is the widely shared beliefs, values, and norms about how citizens relate to governments and to one another. Political socialization is the process, most notably in families and schools, by which we develop our political attitudes and beliefs. And then public opinion is just the distribution of individuals' preferences or evaluations of a given issue, a candidate, or institution within a specific population. So we want to be able to explain the relationship between the core beliefs of the U.S. citizens and attitudes about their roles in governments. We have these different interpretations of core values that affect the relationship between us and the federal government and the relationship that we have with one another. So those 5 core beliefs that the curriculum has identified is individualism, equality of opportunity, free enterprise, rule of law, and limited government. So while we all do generally accept these as core values and core beliefs of the U.S. government, of just, that citizens generally accept, we do recognize that depending on your ideology and your experience, you might have different interpretations of these core values. And that's kind of the stuff that public policy discussions are all about. So I want to explain how cultural factors influence political attitudes and socialization. Family, schools, peer media, and social environments contribute to the development of your political attitudes, your values, through this process of political socialization, right? You learn your values first from your family. And so family has the biggest influence on how you view politics, or even if you care about politics, or if you want to be involved, or if you want to vote. Also, as a result of globalization, U.S. political culture has both influenced and been influenced by the value of other countries. There's some things in our countries that are truly American and started and were originated here. And then there's other parts of our country and our policy that are influenced by global policies around the world, basically. So we both influence the world, and also the world influences us. And then also generational and life cycle effects also contribute to political socialization that influences an individual's political attitudes. Life cycle is what stage of the life cycle are you in? Are you a newborn? Are you a young adult? Are you middle-aged? Are you older? And then generational is basically what generation you grew up in and what kind of major events happen that you and people of your like generation will have some similar attitudes. All right, enduring understanding, public opinion is measured through scientific polling, and the results of public opinion polls influence public policies and institutions. So we want to understand the science behind polling. That's why I've got a really great video for that. It's only 4 minutes, and that's the top there. That gives you the science behind polling. I've also got a TED Ed video that talks about the pros and cons of public polling, and then also how to read a political poll. I really recommend you go back and watch all of these videos. They will give you just a little bit more reinforcement and understanding and reminding about political polling and what makes it accurate, what makes it inaccurate. Okay, they want to play all the videos at once. That'd be scary. All right, so public opinion polls. They're interviews or surveys with samples of citizens. They're used to estimate the feelings and beliefs of the entire population. There's straw polls. These are unscientific surveys. They're used to gauge public opinion on a variety of issues. Like if you take a poll on the internet, that's an example of a straw poll. But a scientific poll needs a quality sample. That's the group of people selected from a larger group. Pollsters study the sample to try to draw valid conclusions about the larger group. And if you build a random sample and one that's representative of your population, then you can get a pretty good idea of what most Americans are thinking. So random sampling is really important and key to scientific polling. It's a method of poll selection that gives each person in the group the same chance of being selected. If you allow people to self-select into polls, you're going to skew your data, and you're not going to actually be able to accurately measure how all people feel. Because what about people that wouldn't choose to be a part of a poll? So the elements of a scientific poll, public opinion data that can impact elections and policy debates is affected by scientific polling types and methods, such as the type of poll. Is it an opinion poll or a benchmark poll or a tracking poll? Or was it a more accurate poll of an entrance or exit exam poll when you're asking people who are leaving the voting booth or as they enter? The sampling techniques matter. Identifying your respondents, taking a mass survey or focus group can give you information, but it won't contribute to accuracy. And then also sampling error or margin of error is also something that you have to watch out for. Also the type of questions you ask and the format of the questions, even the wording really matters, because there's some wordings that can trigger people to answer in a different way that they actually feel about that issue, but the word basically triggers them to answer in a way that maybe is not totally representative of how they truly feel on that issue. So I want to explain the quality and credibility of claims based on public opinion data. The relationship between scientific polling and elections and policy debates is affected by the importance of public opinion as a source of political influence in a given election or policy debate. Some people don't care about polls that much and they don't pay attention to them, but politicians do. Politicians heavily trust polls as a guiding force to figure out what are the people that I'm trying to represent, what kind of stuff do they care about. But reliability and veracity of public opinion data is definitely questionable. And there's some polling organizations that are very trustworthy and have truthful polls and are trying to go on accuracy. And then others tend to basically be more trying to skew you in a certain way or put a narrative forward and try to conduct a poll to back that up, basically. So the top right there is a political cartoon that's kind of criticizing media polls, basically. Okay, enduring understanding. Widely held political ideologies shape public policy debates and choices in American policies. Political ideology is the consistent patterns of opinions on particular issues that stem from core belief or a set of beliefs. Your ideology is your set of core beliefs that you feel about what the size of government should be, the scope of government, where government can intrude on your individual liberties, where they can't intrude on that. Check out this crash course video. It's a really good just overview and review on ideology, one of our really important topics. Okay. Explain how the ideologies of the two major parties shape policy debates. So for this, you need to get a general understanding of what it means to be a Democrat, what it means to be a Republican, or what it means to be libertarian as an ideology. Let me just make sure we understand the Democrat and Republican parties are political parties. They're political organizations. They're not ideologies. They do, the Democratic Party follows a liberal ideology and the Republican Party follows a conservative ideology, but they are separate. So an ideology is a set of beliefs and a party is an organization that tries to win elections. So the Democratic Party platforms generally align more closely to a liberal ideological position, and Republican Party platforms generally align more to a closely conservative ideological position. So this is just in general what it means to be a conservative, or what it means to be a liberal. Conservatives are likely to vote Republican. They generally support smaller, less activist government, generally do not support social welfare programs, generally favor reduced government regulation of business and an economy, and they generally hold strong social views against abortion and the right of same-sex marriage. Liberals are the opposite. They're likely to vote Democrat. They're generally support larger and more active government. My rhyme for that is liberals like large. Liberals like large. By large, I mean large government, more active government. They generally support those social welfare programs and affirmative action. They generally favor increased government regulation of business and the economy. And they generally hold They generally hold strong social views in favor of the right to abortion and the right for same-sex couples to get married. So now this is just a general overview of what you need to know about what it means to be conservative or liberal. There's a lot of people who fall in between, right? Who say, well, some of those things I agree with, some of them I don't. Remember that we took that political ideology quiz at the very beginning, and you were able to decide, ascertain basically, are you more conservative, more liberal? Are you perfectly in the middle kind of thing? So remember, you don't have to, agree to all of these things. If you don't necessarily, it just means you're probably not strong towards that ideology, but you may hold partial views toward it. So I want to describe the different political ideologies regarding the role of government in regulating the marketplace. Liberal ideologies tend to favor more government regulation of the marketplace. That's why liberals right now are advocating for a higher minimum wage, right? Conservatives favor fewer regulations. They don't like a minimum wage. They don't like all these restrictions and rules placed on businesses. Libertarian ideologies are similar to conservatives when it comes to the marketplace. They favor little to no regulation of the marketplace beyond protection of private property rights and also ensuring that there's voluntary trade. So I want to explain how U.S. political culture, our values, our attitudes, our belief influences the formation, the goals, and implementation of public policy over time. So because the U.S. is a democracy with a diverse society, public policies generated at any time reflect the attitudes and beliefs of citizens who choose to participate in politics at that time. Of course, if you're not voting, then you don't have an influence in politics. The balancing dynamic of individual liberty and government efforts to promote stability and order has been reflected by the policy debates and their outcomes over time, basically. How much rights should you have, or protections from government should you have? And when is it okay for government to step in and regulate a behavior for safety or for the interests of the United States as a whole? So we want to explain how political ideologies vary government's role in regulating the marketplace. Basically, conservatives and libertarians are all about less regulations. Liberals are all about more regulations and more active government, basically. So ideological differences on marketplace regulation are based on different theoretical support. We have Keynesian and supply side positions. So supply side economics is basically the conservative and libertarian position. It says just cut taxes for the most wealthy, basically. Sometimes they're called job creators, basically. Keynes was a guy who was different. He was about more demand side economics. I'm sorry, that says demand side economics. That should be demand side economics. So demand side economics is focusing on basically the demand side, giving money to people so they can spend it, basically. So Keynes definitely would be in favor, I know, of these stimulus checks that the Congress was distributing during the coronavirus pandemic. Keynes would be all in favor of that because he'd want a more active role of government in distributing money to people, get the people money, then they can spend it, and that can help to fix the economy. So a very active role in government. And that goes along with that liberal ideology. So what about social issues? How do political ideologies vary on the role of the government in addressing social issues? Liberal ideologies tend to think that personal privacy, areas of behavior where the government should not intrude, extends further than conservative ideologies. And except in arenas revolving a religious and educational freedom, basically. So what does that mean? Liberals tend to be more in favor of personal privacy and the government not regulating personal decisions, especially when it comes to birth control or abortion. But they don't favor necessarily religious freedom because they feel like that goes against the First Amendment in establishing a religion, and educational freedom, they feel like that hurts public schools when encouraging more private or religious schools. Conservative ideologies favor less government involvement to ensure social and economic equality. And the libertarian ideologies disfavor any government intervention beyond protection of private property and also the promotion of individual liberty, basically. Okay, what about social issues? Explain how different ideologies impact policy on social issues. So policy trends concerning the level of government involvement in social issues reflect the success of conservative or liberal perspectives in politics, basically. Again, the kind of stuff that we regulate when it comes to social issues, gay marriage, abortion, those are social issues, social domestic issues. And again, we have different views depending on our ideology, and whatever ideology or political party is dominating the political era, then they're going to be able to push forward those. And then that's it. That's it for Unit 4. So we made it through. I'm proud of us. I'll talk about Unit 5. That'll be the last one that I talk about for this ultimate government review. But go back and check out those videos. They're really awesome, and they give you just an overall chance to reinforce and re-understand. Of course, this doesn't supplement all the stuff that you learn. I do recommend you also go back to lectures as well. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. I need you to do me a favor. Please keep calm and Viking on.